guys, it's TheFrXion here, or Tiger Tank 12, however you call me, I don't really care, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Today we're going to be reviewing the KPZ-50T. This thing you were able to get in the last ranked season, and this ranked season you were able to buy it for, I think, a certain amount of bonds, and I actually managed to get it. I did buy it with the bonds that I had remaining, because I've heard some very good things about this vehicle, and I've enjoyed it so far. So I've played a couple of games in it, and I thought, you know what, let's make a review because it's a very good tank. Before we go into the characteristics or any kind of gameplay, let's just take a moment to appreciate the beauty of this tank, the craftsmanship of the wargaming employees that had to model this tank, and then we're going to talk about some issues that I have with this tank model. So, it's a German tank, yes, but it doesn't really look German, to be fair. At least in my opinion, it doesn't look German. I think it looks more kind of based on an Eastern European tank, because it has a rounded kind of turret, which is really weird, because we don't really see a lot of rounded tanks or rounded turrets on the Germans. Mostly it's just, these angles. If you look at the E75 down there, mostly it's angles. The tank's hull is also more based on Soviet design than on German design, because if you look closely, you can see that the armor actually aligns up there, and it's like the pike nose design a little bit. It's not exactly like the pike nose design of the Soviets, but it's close to it. You also have this very big flat pop down there, which is going to be the obvious weak spot. Then you have a machine gun port at the back, which is supposed to be an anti-air position or maybe anti-infantry, but only for the sides. Doesn't really serve any real purpose back there except for shooting down planes, because it's kind of a turret that can only turn at a, I don't even know, maybe at 45 degrees in the back and, aim downwards, because other than that, you have the turret being in the way in the front. So you cannot really engage targets effectively to the left or anything. But that's not really important, since you can't use machine guns or cannons in World of Tanks anyhow. It's just a little nice gimmick that they added on the back there. You also have a lot of camouflage nets that are strewn around the tank, at the back, on top of the turret, at the front. And the problem that I have right here is that these camouflage nets they do hide the upper plate a little bit. And I think if you're far away, you don't really expect it to have a pike nose design. So it might be that people are kind of let to shoot the upper plate and bounce off of it because of the pike nose design. And I think the camouflage net, it's not like it's covering the entire thing at the front, but it does give you a bit of a wrong perception of the armor layout. So maybe that is a bit of an advantage that you can use if you're playing this tank. Also, the infrared light right there is looking pretty neat. So all in all, this tank looks really cool. And I think I do have a skin on it at the moment, which is, let me check real fast. It's the Shield of All, but I can show you guys what it looks like if we do take it away, because the camouflage net actually is just, that is from the get-go, and also the wrapping around the gun. You usually wrap the guns to make the vehicle more camouflaged, and yeah, it doesn't really serve any other purpose, I think. Could also be a bit of protection from weather and stuff, but yeah, usually it's just to hide your vehicle if you're somewhere in the forest. So I think this style looks pretty cool, and the tank looks cool itself. But before we delve into any gameplay, let's take a look at the characteristics. Let's talk about the gun. Let's talk about the performance of this vehicle and what it's supposed to be. So in my kind of humble opinion, I think this is supposed to be a cross between the two German medium tank tech lines. If we take a look at the German medium tank tech lines, we have on the one hand the heavily armored medium tanks, so the E50 line. Then we have the very lightly armored but very fast medium tanks, the Leopard PDA, the Leopard 1, and they obviously play very differently from one another. The E50M combines, I think it's a good all-rounder, it has a decent gun, it has decent armor, and at least it's protected, right? The Leopard 1 is really fast, has a great gun, but its armor is nowhere to be seen, and it's also very, very good at hiding in different places. It has very good camouflage values, while the E50M just doesn't have that. So the Kampfpanzer 50T kind of goes into the middle area of both of these things, both these worlds, because it has actually armor, and it has a very decent gun, and it combines that together where it leaves very few weak spots and very few weaknesses. So we're gonna jump right into the firepower tab. This is a 105mm gun. It's a tier 10 gun actually. It's from Rheinmetall. And you can see you have 320 alpha damage with this gun. So it's a tier 9, 320 alpha damage. For a medium tank is decent. If you compare it to the Leopard prototype A, it has 420 alpha damage. So that's 100 alpha damage more. And it has a better DPM. Because of the alpha damage probably. So it has like 2560 DPM instead of the 2503 that you have on this vehicle. But still, that's quite decent. So we're not complaining right here. 268mm of APCR pen, that's the standard ammo. And it actually has a shell velocity of 1478, which is also really, really important. And it's really, really good. So yeah, you're gonna have enough pen to deal with tier 10s, enough pen to deal with anything at tier 9 and tier 8, and even at tier 7 if you're lucky enough to get into some tier 9, tier 8, tier 7 games. The rate of fire is actually not the best, but it's also not the worst. It's decent in my opinion. You have 7.82 rounds per minute. That's an average reload time of 7.67 seconds. You could put it down with what was it, a gun rammer. But I didn't do that. I didn't go for the gun rammer because I wanted the maximum in precision. To be fair, I think I just added all that stuff on this vehicle because I had it lying around. So don't judge me on that equipment that I have on it. But this vehicle is good either way, with bad equipment or with good equipment. Doesn't really matter. The gun traverse speed is actually okay. It's not the best. 38.33 degrees per second. So yeah, turning your turret will take some time, but it is a big turret, and this turret is actually quite well protected. We'll get to that position in just a second. You have 8 degrees of gun depression. I mean, for most of the Germans, that is about the average, so nothing special right there. 17 degrees of gun elevation. Your aim time is very, very good with 1.66 seconds to have a fully aimed in circle, and 0.3 dispersion at 100 meters. So your tank is quite accurate as well. It's not on the same level as the Leopard 1 or the Prototype 1. Let me just check real fast, because I do think that they are a bit more accurate. Actually, no. But wait, it depends. It depends on the gun. And it depends on the loadout that we have on it. So we probably could get it down to 0.3. But they're on a similar level. It's almost as good as the Leopard 1. So that's a tier 10 vehicle. So that's quite impressive if you think about it. DPM is 2503. So you can deal quite a bit of damage in a minute. And then you get to the very good thing. This tank has a lot of hit points, 1750. That's on par with certain tier 9 heavy tanks, or used to be on par with certain tier 9 heavy tanks. I think the M103 was similar to it back in the days. But it's actually quite well armored. You have 120 millimeters of hull armor at the front, 40 on the side and 20 on the rear. So your side is very weak, your rear is very weak, but your front is really, really strong. And with this kind of frontal armor, you can really take quite a bit of a hit, especially if you're hull down. You have 250 millimeters on the front, 40 on the side and 30 on the rear. So this tank is really, really good at engaging something from the front and being somewhere in a ditch, maybe sniping at positions. Since you are kind of very accurate and you have the armor, you can be up front, but you can also stick to the back. You are very flexible, you're very mobile as well. We'll get to the point in just a second. So the only thing you have to really worry about is your side and rear armor. But you know, if you are kind of getting overwhelmed by a lot of vehicles from the side or the rear, you still have 1,750 HP. Mobility wise, this tank is quite spectacular as well. 60 kilometers per hour top speed, that's just amazing. 20 kilometers per hour top speed going backwards. 43.12 degrees per second turn time. It's not the fastest turner for a medium tank at least, but it's still pretty decent in my opinion. You have 900 horsepower, or you have a 900 horsepower engine, so your specific power to weight is still pretty good with 17.84. So you're going to be able to accelerate quite quickly with this tank as well, considering that it has so much armor at the front. So basically you end up with a tank that is really competitive at tier 9 and sometimes even at tier 10 if you can avoid the one thing of being shot at from the side or the rear. And that's basically what can really offset a good game when you're playing this tank. You also have to be really careful when you're side scraping, since this tank just doesn't have enough side armor. So anything that goes or has, you know, enough caliber can just overmatch you and it can just go through. So you have to keep that in mind when you're playing the Kampfpanzer 50T. Now, if we take a look at the concealment and the spotting, you can see the spotting is quite good. I think the base view range of this vehicle is 390. It's actually 400, so that's pretty damn good. You don't need any optics on it. Just need to train your crew, and you're going to have 442 meters view range. And concealment is also pretty decent as well, so this tank is a very good all-rounder. Only thing, side armor is very weak, but I think you can work with it if you keep attention, or if you pay attention to it. This is a tank that can do really, really well on the battlefield. I'm going to show you guys an example what you can do with the Kampfpanzer 50T. So, the gameplay that we're going to be taking a look at is on the map Pearl River, and we just had to wait real fast for the game to load in. And it's one of the best games that you can end up, or actually one of the better versions when you go up against tier 8s and just some tier 9s. This is where you can do some real damage with this vehicle. So Pearl River, the important part about this map is the middle. And this heavy tank lane over there is also quite important because these two parts are interlinked, and they always have been from the old Pearl River and to the new version as well. So if you do control the middle and you do not control the heavy tank alley, you're gonna have a bit of a problem. If you want to control the middle, you need to control the heavy tank alley as well. If you only control the heavy tank alley, well, you do not control the middle, and that won't really help you at all because you are kind of caught up in there. So both of these places can only really work if you do control the middle. The western part, the plateau and the area where you have a lot of movements, a lot of place to move around freely, is actually perfect for medium tanks. But since the middle kind of allows you almost 360 degree fighting range and, you know, distance, you kind of have to focus on the middle more. So the KPZ 50T, it has 60 kilometers per hour top speed, so it is rather fast, especially for a vehicle of this size and with the amount of armor that you have. Don't forget, we have 120 millimeters frontal armor, and I think about a 250 millimeters of turret armor on this thing. So that's very, very much. That's a lot of armor. And you have 268 millimeters of penetration with the APCR shells, if I'm not mistaken. 268, that's a lot. So you can do a lot of damage with this gun, and your reload time is also not too bad. I think about 7 seconds per shot. So this is really important that you go to the right position on the map like this. So we took the middle. There was a Brigado 46. Somehow he is nowhere to be seen, and we do end up spotting a Yak Tiger 88. Now the interesting thing that you will see when you're playing the Leopard Prototype A is that you have the alpha damage that the KPZ 50T just doesn't have. This tank doesn't have the alpha damage, but it has still a pretty decent rate of fire and pretty good DPM. The Leopard PDA has almost, actually it has a bit better DPM than the KPZ-50T, but that has to do with the 420 alpha damage. So hitting tanks for maybe over 500 with a standard APCR shell, that really hurts. So that's pretty damn cool. But, you know, still being able to hit tanks for 320 and doing the sometimes all the way up to 400 damage to enemy vehicles, that still hurts as well. Unfortunately, you can see that our scenario that we talked about previously kind of came true. We lost the heavy tank alley up north. So right now we're a bit in a pickle, or in a bad situation, since we have to now see how we can hold the middle and hold the north, since our heavy tanks decided to go into the middle and kind of abandon the heavy tank alley. You can see that AIMX M451 is probably regretting his choice, and he just gets taken out there. And unfortunately for us, the 8 degrees of gun depression aren't enough for us to be able to hit that guard down there. So this entire scenario has turned into a bit of an awkward game now, because we have to deal with several tier 9s. They have all their tier 9s remaining. We have lost 3 out of the 6 tier 9s that we had. Except for the T-54, they lost the T-54 somewhere along the middle probably. And now it's a bit of an awkward situation, because now we have to defend the base. The plain area where the medium tanks usually do gather and defend, yeah, that's the place where we don't really have a lot of enemies pushing, but we have the heavy tanks moving in. So it's important for us to move back. Unfortunately, our Burask just dies there. He's trying to climb up or get into an offensive position in that bush. Unfortunately, we get spotted by the M103, and that's exactly the place where you do not want to get caught out with the KPZ-50T, because this tank just doesn't have any armor at the rear and on the side. So we got lucky there. The ISC-152K comes in clutch. The Progetto 46 finally shows up again, and I think he bounces off our turret. No, he actually bounces off the top of our rear. So now we're in a really awkward position, because we have to fight against several tier 9s. We have to hold the base, and there comes a T-95. Now, T-95, pending that with standard rounds, even with premium shells from this distance, it's quite difficult, so I'm just hoping that I can keep him permatracked. I do have the rate of fire to keep him kind of permatracked. He does have a pretty good repair crew on it, so that must be a player who plays this T-95 quite often. And I hope that the artillery is just able to take him out, because obviously we're going to have a bit of a hard time cracking that shell of that T-95. And I think at this moment I notice, or I just realized that it's maybe a bit too late to hold off this T-95. I'm still trying to hold him off, but I think I'm going to move on over now to the left side, and I'm going to see if I can help the Somua SM and the T-26, because I hope that the T-95, that the ISC-152K can somehow flank the T-95 or hit him from the side, that I can help out these guys on this left side, and then, you know, save them so we can still defend the base. And it's a good thing that I did turn to the left, because at the same time the guard and the Progetto 46 are trying to turn around and flank us. But since we do have pretty good hull armor on this vehicle, we do bounce the Progetto 46 again, and I really want to finish him off, because it's a dangerous Italian medium auto reloading vehicle. He unfortunately is able to get away on that right side to the Progetto 66. Unfortunately, we lose our ISC-152K, and now it's basically just all about doing as much damage as I can still do with the KPZ-50T. And you can really see the full potential of this tank has to offer now, because you have 268mm of pen, you have good armor on this vehicle, you have the mobility, so this combines the best thing out of several worlds into one package. And you can see that the people are actually I'm not sure if it's panic that is causing them to not hit my weak spot, which is the lower plate. But they're just kind of panic firing, and we managed to get some more damage out of the guard. The Sumo SM comes in clutch. And now I'm hoping that if I can get this Yak Tiger out of the game, that is currently now moving into this little alcove right here, that I can maybe finish off the Progetto 46 and then get the Progetto 66, and you know, they might just completely abandon or waste their advantage that they currently have. So the Yak Tiger is another candidate who bounces off the armor of this vehicle. This time though, he does manage to pen us. He's loading APCR. He really wants us dead. And the mobility of this tank just allows you to still stay ahead of the Yak Tiger. He makes a big mistake right now. I track him. Should maybe not have aimed that far to the left, because if I would have hit him a bit further to the right, that one would have done damage as well. So we would have probably been faster with taking out the Yak Tiger. But sitting behind him, and you know, he can't really do anything. We're just going to farm him. We're going to kill him. Unfortunately, the enemy team, the T95 probably, he's not interested in coming after us. So I decide to try to do my best. I do take out the Yak Tiger. I miss a terrible shot, or I put a horrible shot into the Progetto 66, the upper plate at least of that vehicle, and we catch another one. Progetto 66 obviously has gun depression, so we have to be careful with that, but we know that maybe we can still do some more damage on him. So I'm loading gold because we've only fired APCR shells, and you can just see that this vehicle is really tough to take out, especially in a one-on-one situation. And if they don't really know how to engage you. So right there you can see this Progetto 66 has fallen back to be able to reload in time. He unfortunately takes care of us, destroys us in the end, but we still manage a game where we do almost 6,000 damage, an additional 2,000 damage blocked, and 1,500 assisted by spotting and by tracking. So this tank really is quite impressive, especially if you're playing against tier 9 vehicles, tier 8s. When you're playing against tier 10s, usually I don't think your armor, your upper plate armor isn't going to hold up as well, but still, you're quite competitive. So this tank is really good. It's like one of those reward tanks that feels really nice to have, and it's a real joy to play. It's basically the combination of the E50, the Leopard Prototype A. You have the speed, you have the gun, you have a bit of the armor. All in all, it's a really great cocktail. It mixes great, and it's a tank that is really awesome. Plays great. It might be a bit on the side of being too good, but it's not as crazy overpowered as other reward tanks. It's more close to the AE Phase 1. The AE Phase 1 is close to being balanced, I would say. But it certainly still has some flaws and still maybe a bit too good. But I really enjoy this tank. And if you have the opportunity, you like medium tanks, it doesn't matter if you like heavily armored medium tanks, if you like fast medium tanks, I think this could really be a good choice. If you can pick it up, maybe if it's coming in the next ranked campaign and you're able to buy it, why not go for it? Might be a good tank to add to your collection. Hopefully you guys liked this review. As always, I see you guys on the next one. Until then, have a good one.